Leadership is often viewed as a matter of competence. Learn more, work harder, develop better strategies. What if they're capacity problems and they're not competence problems at all? Because leadership doesn't demand more from our skills. It demands more from our minds, our emotions, our bodies, and our nervous systems too. And in a world filled with uncertainty, many leaders are carrying far more than they realize. Today, we're exploring the biology of capacity, what pressure does to us physically and emotionally, and why building the life or business you want may require building the capacity to hold it first. Welcome to Deals with Heels. I'm Debra, your host, and this is where we go beyond the typical surface of business leadership and sales and into the decisions that really tell us how we grow. Today, I'm joined by Hanna Curman. Hanna is the founder of BrainShift and an executive coach who helps leaders understand the connection between biology, behavior, leadership, and performance. Her work explores how the nervous system influences decision-making, resilience, communication, and our ability to navigate uncertainty and change. Through her work, Hanna helps leaders understand that many of the challenges they experience aren't simply mindset issues or failures of discipline. They're often biological responses to pressure, responsibility, and uncertainty. Hanna, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me here.
I am so excited for this conversation. My audience knows that I talk a lot about being able to hold our blessings, to hold our results, to hold our ambitions. We have to be able to hold that. And for me, it was a critical part of when I started my life over in my 50s. I don't want to rehash it all, but I was very much all by myself after my kids had left the nest, my marriage had ended, and my mother had passed away. And I was very overrun with grief. And one of the first things that I noticed was I felt frail. I was always an athlete, and so I felt strong typically, and I felt kind of unstoppable. I'm growth mindset. I can do if I can work hard enough, I can accomplish anything. And that had served me very well throughout my life. And here I was incredibly thin and frail, and I had a lot left to give and do in my life. And I said, I'm not going to be able to do it if I feel like this. And I was emotionally triggered and reactive to everything around me. And so, but the first non-negotiable boundaries that I set with myself were about my physical health and my physical strength, because I didn't know what it was called then, but I knew there's no way I can do what I need to do if I feel like this every day. And so there I was dealing with biological issues, but I couldn't put like a label or really understand exactly what it was yet, but I knew I couldn't move forward without fixing it. And I was directly affecting my own capacity to grow and hold and do the work. Like, I thought to myself, what if you have to work 7 days a week for 6 months or a year in order to reach your goal? Are you capable of doing that? And I said, no, I'm not capable right now. And I made fundamental changes to my life so that I could be capable of doing it. And so when I read your media kit and your biography and all of the things that you're working on, I thought to myself, she is doing and has all of the competency that I didn't have. I just knew I couldn't do it myself and figured out a way to make it happen. And I've talked to my audience about it. They know about all of of those struggles that I had. And now I'm so excited to get to dive in with somebody who really understands what was happening to me and to lots of other people and leaders when they're faced with uncertainty, and how that changes us and how it affects how we make choices and whether or not our growth's successful. So a little bit more of an introduction as to why I'm just so interested in the topic, and I am anxious to dive in with you.
Such a wonderful story, first of all, and thank you very much for your honesty and sharing. I think that is the first part, that we actually open up and we dare to share, because you are not alone.
No.
We've been there. So many of us. And we do believe that we should be there on ourselves, and we should be strong. We should not show ourselves weak. We should be capable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was actually on a retreat just a few weeks ago in Denver, so it was kind of close to you.
It was, and I was just in Colorado and the Denver area. My daughter was graduating from her medical residency.
Yeah.
And so I was just there. We just barely missed each other.
We did. I didn't know that. Anyway, what came up to me during this retreat was a title of a book, The Curse of Being Capable.
Yes, I know that too.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that we don't really often talk about. I mean, we do believe that being capable is something that we should always be there for others. We should always be able to do things for other people. But it's a curse as well. For me, it has been anyway. Because that also means that I don't really seek support.
That's a fact. And professionally,
Mm-hmm.
when you're capable, you just take on more, right? I'm a very competent and had big capacity when I was in corporate. And as a natural state, I was in a very low point when I discovered that all about myself. But I would take on more and take on more. And so I was capable of holding all of that, but it was preventing me from expanding in the ways that were better for me.
Yep.
And you think when you're doing that somebody's going to notice how hard you're working. They're going to notice everything that I'm doing. And often the opposite is true. They don't notice at all that you're doing so much of it. They're grateful that you're doing it, but it doesn't build the type of credibility that you think it's going to.
No,
in my experience.
True. And I think that is really a second part that you're saying there, the credibility and trustworthiness and all those things that we are talking about when we are speaking about psychological safety and everything that we know by fact how important it is for our own success and for the company's success. We know it. And we are creating spreadsheets connected to it, but we don't really understand what it is. We understand what it is by words, but not within ourselves. So I just wanted to go back a little bit to what you shared as well, that you were in your 50s and you were very fragile and weak, and did ask yourself, am I capable to go on with this 7 days a week? And you just felt that, no, I'm not. And just look at the situation there. You shared with us that your marriage was broken, your children left the house, your mother passed away. You were actually alone.
Yeah, for the first time, there was one person for me to take care of, me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to do it.
No.
I didn't know how to move forward, and because I hadn't considered myself in such a long time.
No, but coming back a little bit to why we are feeling so empty when those things happen, because we are animals. We are supposed to be together, right? And then when people are leaving us, that is the same thing as it's danger, because our mind doesn't understand that our children are leaving us for their own sake. And I mean, I have a broken marriage behind myself as well, and I know what that can do to us. And the first thing that happens is, of course, that we feel lonely, we feel excluded, we don't feel wanted anymore, even though it might be ourselves that have taken the decision, and it might be a common decision that I want to close this marriage or I want to split this marriage. But the brain doesn't understand that. The brain only sees that, okay, you are left alone. You are excluded. You're not wanted. And those are the things that's coming back to more or less everything in the world, or what we are doing and exposing ourselves for, is to understand the mechanics behind it, or the biology behind it. Why we're acting and reacting as we're doing. Because I do guess, even though I don't know, but I do guess that you felt guilt and shame as well back then.
I did. I was filled with lots of regret, thinking if I had made this decision, and I raised 5 children. So often the solution was whatever is the closest, whatever's the easiest to, whether that's revenue, because if it was for me professionally, that was completely set aside, and really helping my husband grow his businesses because I could do that part of the time and do running the household. And, raising my kids was important. They're 5 beautiful, functioning adults and human beings, caring, loving, generous, competent, right? I did all of those things well. And I think everybody else does too. But when they were gone for good reasons, you're right. My body didn't know. What my body knew was this empty space where I used to spend my mental energy and my emotional energy and my physical time were dealing with my relationships. And it was difficult. And some of the kids were my stepkids that I raised from a very, very young age. And now I've made the decision to leave their dad. And so that caused a bunch of disjointedness. But what it really was emptiness that felt terrible. It just felt like the grief of it being missing from, even though I didn't want it anymore, the grief of it being missing. And it's amazing how solving that helped solve emotional regulation, give me the skills I need to have my businesses and my podcast. But all of that really couldn't have happened had I not had that emptiness, because that's what caused me to learn and grow and figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up, when I was in my 50s, sort of. I spent a whole lot of my career in corporate marketing and building businesses. But now I was faced with, I don't have any of that anymore. What am I going to do? And that is an emptiness decision to make too. And it was incredibly overwhelming emotionally and physically in a way as well, just because I was frail. I'm somebody that when I have stress, I can't eat. I know all my friends are like, I wish I had that, because most people eat when they're stressed, but I can't eat. And so I was really skinny. And so it affected me just as negatively as it does someone that overeats when they're stressed out, but it affected my health. The nutrition was gone. So that added to that whole feeling as well.
Of course. And just a little bit with the decisions as well. Some of the decisions might have been yours, and some of the decisions were not in your hands at all.
Right.
And of course that impacts as well the way that we are feeling and the way that we can handle and manage things. And I think that this with how the body reacts, that is extremely interesting as well. You introduced me that I'm working with the neuroscience part in leadership and so on, and yes, I am. And I can share a story about myself there, because about 8 years ago, more or less 9 years ago now, I got an injury in my body. I kind of slipped, and one of my legs kind of well, it got stuck. Let's call it like that, because it was really stuck. I couldn't move myself at all for a few years. I could walk, but I could, when I was climbing into a car, I had to lift my leg because the muscles didn't work at all for me. And then this pain started to go up in my spine at the back. And of course I was connecting all those things to this injury. But it did not really make any sense, because I was working with the injury and it was not there anymore, but the pain was there. Extremely painful. And at this time, or part of it went on for a few years, and the pain was just worse and worse. And then I went to the doctor, and he said, well, Hanna, I do believe that you need to eat some neuro pain killers, some blockers for because the pain that you have, that is connected to your neurosystem. And I said, okay, it's the same thing as we are eating when we have depressions and so on. So I said, oh, well, yeah, okay, I can do that. It's not really what I want. But anyway, and then I was in a work situation, where I did not really feel that I belonged. I loved what I was doing, but there were some circumstances around me that just didn't feel correct. And after a while, I took the decision to reassign. So I did. And only a few months later, I was on vacation and I forgot my drugs. So I didn't have my painkillers with me. And I was kind of, how is this going to turn out? But I didn't have any pain anymore. So that was, and then I started to kind of go back as well and think about when was the pain as much or as worse in my body. And that was every second Friday. And every second Friday I had this meeting with this team where I felt that I did not really belong. So my body was talking to me, really screaming to me, Hanna, you need to do something. But I didn't listen, or I didn't understand the connection until it was, well, I took the decision, but not based on the pain in my body. I took the decision based on other things. But only this with really listen to our bodies. That is one of the things that I'm working with as well when I'm working with leaders and organizations, to start to spot, to start to recognize when are you tense? When are you relaxed? When do you feel that your breath is shallow? When do you feel that your breath is slow and, easygoing? So that is really because you can work so much with just understanding what's going on in your body, and then start with spotting it. And as you have spotted, you need to decode it. Where does it come from? Because of lot of those triggers that we have, they belong to the past. They belong to situations that is no longer valid for us.
That actually makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I so I'm 59 today, and I'll be 60 later this year. And I can tell you that I feel healthier at 59 than I did in my mid-40s.
Mm-hmm.
And during my mid-40s was a time that my marriage was really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And I had sacrificed my career for my kids, and I love them. And it wasn't that I hated the day-to-day, but my life as a whole, and when my marriage started being poor quality, and it was more than just the problems in it. My ex really refused to communicate with me about it. And for someone like me, that is really, really painful to not be able to work it out and not
Mm-hmm.
be able to talk it out. And he simply refused. And my kids were younger, and I didn't want to split them up. I'd been raising my stepson since he was 2 and my stepdaughter since she was 6. And I didn't want to break up the family. And I had a feeling that it would, and that my ex, he was the kind of person that when he was done, that was it. And I will tell you, he does not speak to me to this day. If he needs to get me a message, he sends it through the kids. So I was right about that. But when you said that, it made me think about how I feel like when I looked back at my life, which I no longer regret at all, any of it, the things that caused me so much pain, I was on my knees, and the things that I am certainly not proud of when I hurt other people. I wouldn't change any of that because it brought me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it here. I like it here. I like who I am here.
Mm.
So I understand its purpose in getting me to here. But when I was looking back and healing and thinking about all of the mistakes and the wrong turns I had had in my life when I was being super hard on myself all the time, one of the things that I noticed when I started to turn around, how much better I felt in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see how I knew something was wrong with my marriage. I made an attempt to fix it. That wasn't well received. And I couldn't make a decision to change my life at that point. And my health, right, just really suffered. And as I look back at my own personal timeline, the times when I was filled with uncertainty and stress and wasn't getting what I needed from my personal relationships, and I had isolated myself partially because when you have 4 and 5 kids, you don't have time to socialize a lot. There's a certain amount of natural isolation that happens. But then when I needed people, I didn't reach out.
No.
And for whatever, pride or all of the different reasons. But as I look back, those were my unhealthiest times of my life.
Yeah.
And so it really aligns with what you were saying. And as I made steps to improve my life back then, I got healthier.
Yeah.
And you could tell that I got right as I look at it now, that those steps that I was taking just to be strong and take back control of my life also affected my health.
It does. And it does not only affect your health, it does affect your kids' health as well. Because we are mirroring each other. And I think that is really what I mean with the curse of being capable. I mean, of course, it's a good thing to be capable of doing things, but the curse of being capable when we do not see that we don't really have time or we don't have the courage enough to ask for support. Because everyone is asking me for support. So who am I then if I should ask for support? Then I would lower myself in the rank. When we are talking about, because we are wired to 2 things. And I think this is something, it's a teaching here now, but bear with me. 2 things that we need to keep in mind. Our brain is only wired to keep us alive and to reproduce. And the first thing is to keep us alive. And the easiest way to keep us alive is to stay out of threat and then reproduce. That is a second that we can take in another episode. But just look at this with staying alive. Then we have different norms as well, which is wired in our brain and in our neurosystem. What makes us stay alive? One of them is status, and then we are talking about positioning in the social positioning. So if I am the one that is capable and always the one taking care of other things, the one that is known for a go-to person, known for someone who's always supporting other people, and then I show myself vulnerable and ask for support. My brain and my nervous system do believe that I'm lowering myself in the positioning there.
Just instinctively.
Instinctively. Yes, instinctively. And then, so there are so many things that we just by understand the different ways that we are wired, that we can explain why we're doing things. And that is when I'm coming back to this with shame and guilt. I mean, because I meet too many people that go around their full life, more or less, with shame and guilt for different reasons. And shame and guilt, that gives us a very, very low vibration in our body. which makes us sick. And that is where I wanted to connect your belief that staying in that marriage would save your kids, maybe.
Well, and it wasn't the saving it was holding the family unit together that I was obviously responsible for. I was holding on all of my shoulders, right? Because I was taking
which is
part of
the
it.
same thing.
Yes.
Because when you keep the community together or the group together, the family together, then you feel then you stay safe. That is why I'm using the word safe. But just imagine, I mean, how much of your energy, and now we are not talking about the energy that we have to do things, but the energetic field that you have around you, that you mirror to your kids.
Yep. And
so, yeah.
It affected them. And as I look, they're all grown now. And like all of us, we have things that we carry from our childhood. Our parents are only people. They do the best that they can. And so you're right. It does. And it's just it's a terrible feeling to think that you are doing that to your kids. But if you move beyond that and now you're a leader or you're an entrepreneur and a business owner or a founder, and now look, that translates to your team.
Yeah.
It's the same correlation over professionally.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you share a lot about your life, and I said as well, or earlier I said that I do have a broken marriage as well. And I have one of my daughters, they are also grown up now. I had two grown up daughters, and I also have a son, he's 9. But my grown up kids, one of them, she actually tried to take her life.
Oh.
Not once. 3 times. And of course, that has been stuck with me for years and years. What could I have done? What could I have done to support her more? What did I not see? But she's perfectly fine now, and she's a mother herself of two wonderful daughters. But so I just, there again, I do recognize what you are saying. Of course, I thought I was doing everything for them. But I do like as well how you are connecting it to the business world and what we can do as leaders and how our state mirrors our team. And there again, coming back to this, if we should just, as a mother or as a father, we have a higher ranking in our family. Meaning that our hormones and the things that the energetic field, as I was talking about, we have a great power how we are mirroring that to our kids. The same thing, and don't ask me why or how it is, but the same thing is in the business world. If you are a leader, you have a stronger impact on your team members than your team members have on you, because it has to do with this social positioning to do. If we're going back to the times, 40, 50,000 years ago, we wanted to be close to the alpha male. And the alpha male, if he was calm, relaxed, strong, that would impact the tribe. The same thing, guys, for the leadership. So just figure out how many leaders we are out there. And believe me, I've been coaching hundreds of them all around the globe. And still, I have not yet met one single of them that has a calm nervous system.
There's so much pressure.
There is so much pressure. Yeah.
For results, I think is a huge part of it. I'm a growth consultant and almost everything, no matter what, because the business exists to grow, to sell something.
Yep.
No matter what position you have within that company, you're a part of that whole growth system and that growth cycle. But because they're so results driven, we have such a consumer driven economy, and leadership often doesn't feel included in decisions that are made above them. And so that affects how they energetically feel about it and their capacity to lead their team through it. their emotional and mental capacity to lead them through it, because they weren't included in the decision. Often, especially now in the United States, decisions are made on a CEO level, which is really focused on shareholder growth, not all of the things that build shareholder growth naturally. Consumer experience, your team empowerment, and all of those things really drive growth and demand building. And so we see that from leaders all the time that have all of these pressures. And they also didn't have a lot of inclusion in the decision that got handed to them that now they have to sell and emulate to their team and lead through. And so talk about that process for a leader if somebody's sitting in that position right now and they know it. I promise they know it. They can feel it, can't they?
I do believe that they can feel it. And I think there are two angles to this. I mean, there's one, and they might be the ones that are listening to this, the leaders that actually can feel this and how they can manage their situation. And then we have the CEOs, how they can change and understand how much more capacity they can get out of their employers if they understand the impact that they can do in both ways. But just going back to the leader that might listen to this and recognize the situation that they are squeezed in between and they feel pressure and they don't really know how to manage their full life. I think we need to start to look at life balance. We usually talk about work-life balance. I do believe that we need to start to look at life balance, because work is always with us. It's there constantly, 24/7. Even though we might not have started our computer, the work is still there.
In the back of our mind, you're exactly right.
In the back of our mind, yeah.
And if there's still things that I need to do, I will find myself feeling guilty if I'm not doing them. If I'm taking a moment for self-care, taking a moment to spend time, like at my daughter's graduation. I worked a little bit when I was there. I was only gone 3 days, but there's this, and I love what I do. I wasn't begrudgingly doing something. I love what I do. And that makes a big difference. But I still have, if there's work that could be done and I'm just sitting doing nothing, I have almost a compulsion to go do it. I have to self-talk my way out of it. And nope, you need rest. You need to recharge. You need time to center. And I meditate every day, but which brings me so much emotional regulation that I have a big capacity because of that. It increased my capacity because of that. But there is a part of me that still, I swear it comes from being in corporate for 2 decades, that that there's this certain amount I can hear, even working in the little diner when I was 12. If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. It was just this whole, so it's hard for me. But I think it's important as leaders and people that we do. So how can we get through that when we're struggling with taking time?
And I'm coming back to understanding why we're doing things. And this with always chasing, I need to be busy all the time. I do believe that we have many of us have that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe even more the ones that have been in the corporate. I've been in the corporate as well for 2 decades. So I know what you're talking about. Anyway, with this understanding why we're doing things, we have so many different hormones in our bodies. And now just a little teaching again then.
Please.
To understand this. One of the most important hormones that we have, which we have to be able to drive us forward, that is the dopamine. And we actually have 5 different kinds of dopamine in our bodies. But to make it a little bit more simple, I simplify it with 2. One of the dopamine, that is the one that we are getting from a rush. meaning that we get it from drugs, sex, sugar, likes on social medias.
Yes. I talk
all
about
those
vanity
things.
metrics all the time. You get so
Yeah.
excited, but they're irrelevant to actual growth.
No, but that is, but our body has it.
Yes.
And we have this base level of dopamine. So when we get this rush, it goes up and then it falls down and it goes down under the base level. And we want to go back. And then we get then we are chasing another kind of rush and another rush and another rush. And those are also the things that I reckon that many organizations, that we are getting recognized as we have achieved a target. Then we celebrate. Yes,
so
we did it.
Does it go under your base set level because of the spike rebound?
Yes.
Is that what causes it?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
And then that feels like I got to have more now because you feel crappy because you're below your set point.
Yes. Yes.
So when we're trying, we really just need to get back to our set point.
Yes. We can detox that kind of dopamine. We can detox it, but it takes some, you need to focus. You need to, again, be aware. Start to be aware about why am I looking at my phone again? Is it because I need to look at my phone? Or is it instantly something that I'm doing? The same thing when so I have 10 minutes. I haven't been checking my emails. It's the same mechanism that's there. That is this dopamine that is driving us a lot. And we should have it there. But that kind of dopamine is not really good for us. But then we have another kind of dopamine, which is more kind of released over the time. So when we are doing things and when we're doing things together, and I think that is one of the most important word here, not alone, but if we are doing something together and we see how we progress together towards something that we feel that, we want to get there. We don't wait to celebrate until we have the end target. We celebrate by giving each other recognition every day, every step of the work. I have a metaphor that I usually take here, and that is if you're going to cross the ocean, you can choose to cross the ocean with a speedboat, or you can choose to cross the ocean with a sailing boat. The speedboat will probably take you over the ocean in a faster way, with a faster speed, but it takes a lot of energy, right? It's a lot of fuel.
Energy.
A lot of fuel.
A lot of mental energy too, because you're going fast.
Yes, and you don't really have time to see what's going on. You miss all the whales, you miss everything that is out there that is a beauty on the ocean. If you cross the ocean with a sailing boat, then you need to adapt all the time. Where's the wind blowing? How should we how should we navigate? Should we go through there or there instead? You have time to see the whales and all the beauty that you have beside you, and you learn as you go, and you have another kind of rush in your body, a more calm and relaxed rush. In the speedboat, and I love speedboats. It's not that. I love going fast, but sitting in the sailing boat, that gives me a more beauty in life, just to have that as a metaphor, those two different ones. And then you can choose.
Yeah, you can have both. You don't have you don't, like it's not that we don't have urgent things happen professionally and personally that we need that instant dopamine to do. We do have that. It's that we're living in that space right now and we've let go of the rest of it. For me, that's what it feels like more than anything else, is that we've lost it. And kind of like when I had a rare infection in my late 20s, and it took them about a year to figure out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I started, I had to take IV antibiotics every day. And about a week into them, I discovered what it was like to feel good again. I'd become so used to feeling bad that I had completely lost touch with what it felt like to feel actually good. I had I had made it and lowered my level to what a good day felt like, as opposed to what it felt like to feel good. And it's kind of the same thing, the way you described it. We get used to this power speedboat and we forgot how good it feels to slow down and to see that version of the world too, because now our whole life is on the speedboat.
Yeah.
And when we do finally slow down, we sleep and we're tired and we can't do anything because we've been on the speedboat. And
we've been on the speedboat, and also we need additional fuel.
Yes.
To fill it up. With a sailing boat, we don't need the fuel in that way. We can ride with the waves. We can ride with the wind, and learn as we go. So coming back, just to wrap that up a little bit, I think that for the leaders that are listening to this and asking themselves, okay, so I do recognize this, so what can I do? First of all, ask yourself, are you in the speedboat or are you in the sailing boat? And as long as you have taken a decision which one to ride, then you know what you need to do as well. But let's say that you find yourself in a speedboat, but you don't know where to fuel it up. Then you will actually go empty out in the ocean, all alone. No one to support you out there. And think about that.
And I've been there without gas, not knowing how to refuel, not knowing when the usual things that I had done when I was younger worked. And now that's not going to work because I can't hold that anymore. For me, when I'm working with my clients, it's about sustainability. Is that pace sustainable? And it's not for anyone. It's not. And I sometimes would laugh because, boy, I was all in that hustle culture so big. It's Monday, wake up, get your hustle on. Right? I was in that space for so long. And it took a long time for me to understand that, because I would do it and I can go deep into my reserve tank, Hanna, and not know that I'm in it. And that serves you well when you're taking care of kids and when you have those types of things. Your kids are sick, you're up at night, you're in your reserve tank, and that's necessary. And professionally, sometimes it is. But knowing that you're in it, knowing that you've pushed it, because I would push it and then I would crash. And then I would be hard on myself because I can't do what I need to do. And now I'm hard on myself about it because why aren't you hustling anymore? I've set this expectation level. So for me, having some of the sailboat or knowing where to refuel is what makes that pace sustainable for as long as you need it to be. But you got to have some sailboat time, right? I mean, you can't live in the speedboat forever.
No. And if you want a long-lasting life with good health,
yes,
and I think that is really what you need to ask yourself as well. I mean, you can go on in high speed, but not and you can do that for your full life, but that full life will not be as long and healthy as if you would have slowed down a little bit. And from time to time, of course, do that. Speedboating. I love speedboating. Because one of the things that I really do want to emphasize coming back, and I think that we touched upon it through the conversation here, is that we can actually save lives. We can save lives and we can prolong our own lives as well. Not only by years, but with experience and by love and harmony. So I think that it's really, we need to be cautious and take responsibility.
Yes. For me, to circle back to my first story about me personally, I knew, boy, this isn't going to last very long. Right? I've got a lot left I have to give. I started having grandchildren, and I not only want to be alive, I want to be able to be in their life and be active. And I want to hop around with my granddaughter who's about to turn 3. And I want to be able to not just sit and hold. I want to be able to participate in a meaningful way. And so building that capacity was important for me. So, gosh, we're so running out of time, and I would love to just continue and talk about it forever. But let's talk about, before we close out, expanding capacity. Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself being emotionally triggered every day, it's not that I don't get ever emotionally triggered. I do. Not very often. And I now have solutions to get myself out of it. I don't live in that place. But I got there by counseling and meditation and things that I did by myself to figure all of that out. What are some ways for people that are listening that they know they're in their reserve tank? I can't sustain this. I'm stressed out all the time. How can they start to build some regulation and some systems that will help them expand capacity?
There's one thing that I always bring up, and that is your breathing. Your breathing. It's so easy, and it is for free, and it doesn't take long time. But start to recognize how you breathe. And before a meeting, or in between, or before you start your day, whenever you find yourself, just breathe in and hold it for a second or two, and then breathe out for a longer exhalation. Because when the exhalation is a little bit longer than the inhalation, we slow down our nervous system. And it's so easy to do it. And it's totally free. So that is the first thing that I would like to give out. And the second thing, which is also totally for free, that is to end your day, every day, end your day with 3 questions. What am I happy about? What am I proud of? And what's the third one in English? Happy, proud, and happy, proud. I just lost the third one, but keep it in 2 then. Happy and proud. Because happy, it's too different. It's
and
too
generous.
different.
How did I help? How did I help? No? Was that it?
Mm-hmm. No.
How did I help? How did I give back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But just to give yourself that as well, because when you are giving yourself those words, you release very good hormones as well, which will support you to relax and feel better with yourself. So just doing that.
And maybe what do I need to let go of? What do I
need to let go of? I would say no.
Because you're bringing it up again instead of...
Yeah. Okay. Because what I want to do at the end of the day, I just want to focus on the positive.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes perfect sense, because then you go to sleep, the end of your day, and all of those positive things are carried over from work, as opposed to the negative things that we ruminate on and that we worry about and that naturally dominate. You do have to actually make a choice to think about something else when you've been in the habit of doing that.
And I got the third one now. Proud.
Okay.
Proudness. Of course, we need to be proud as well. So what am I proud of? What am I happy about? And am I... Did I say that before?
You said proud before. We've lost the third.
You just cut that off. Anyway.
Well, it will be... I like all of those, and breath work. I do some sales coaching, and I always tell people, before you go in, the breath work, breathing exercises. And once you've done them, it doesn't take as long the next time, because your body recognizes what you're doing. It's time to calm down. It's time to relax. And then when you are losing it emotionally, those deep breaths work.
They do. They do. They do.
Well, Hanna, I've thoroughly enjoyed this entire conversation, and I have learned so much, and I appreciate you granting me the example of what I went through, and I've made it through the other side. I'm certainly not perfect. I still get emotionally triggered. I still have challenges that I have to work through, but I feel capable of doing it. I'm not intimidated. I'm not frightened by it. And I think that makes the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
So for everyone out there that feels so calm by Hanna's voice, you have such a nice, calm demeanor about you, and your voice is so calm. And I know that my listeners are going to want to find out more about you and possibly connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how we can do that, the best ways to connect and the best ways to find out more information.
I'm active on LinkedIn, so that is the easiest way to find me, and I'm posting information there and what I'm doing as well. So that is through my name, Hanna Curman. Hanna Curman. And then if you want to connect with me through my webpage, where you can find articles I'm posting every week as well, and so on, that is hannacurman.se, as I'm based in Sweden. So those are the two parts or areas where you can find me. And if you go through LinkedIn, and if you want to send me a DM, I am personally responding to all DMs that are coming to me there. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Fantastic. And I will link to all of Hanna's stuff in the show notes, and I'll connect on LinkedIn too. I definitely want to stay in touch.
Yeah, so do I.
I really have enjoyed this conversation. So if today's conversation resonated with you, if it changed how you think about pressure, uncertainty, leadership, or your own capacity to carry responsibility, then my work lives beyond this podcast in your growth. Thank you. One of the things I've learned through my work with business owners and leadership teams is that growth doesn't usually break because people are not capable. It breaks when the demands of growth begin to exceed the capacity of the systems, teams, and the leaders carrying it. So if that's happening to you, Hanna can help you as well. That's why I created a full free resource called 5 Signs Your Growth is Breaking. It will help you identify where friction may be developing beneath the surface before it becomes a larger challenge in your business. You'll find a link to that free resource and all of my contact information in the show notes alongside Hanna's. Because sustainable growth isn't just about creating more opportunity, it's about holding and having the capacity to hold it. Hanna, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story and giving all of the great advice that you give, and such a nice, calm demeanor. It was very refreshing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It was a great conversation. Until next time, everyone, stand strong in your power, especially when it gets uncomfortable. See you next week.